What did you come up with in terms of how you would deal with this player who's not doing what you want him to do? Do you have any folks who would be willing to share? Here we go.
中高を見ていますとですね、中学生、高校生を見ていますと、チームプレーの中で自分の方が技術的にもレベルが高くて、その同じチームの中にレベルの低い子がいたときに、プレーとしてうまく自分のパフォーマンスが発揮できないときに、非常に面白くないそういう態度を見せるんですね。でその時に彼自身に、練習中はすぐできないんですが、練習終わった後に自分がコントロールすることのできることと自分がコントロールできないことは何かっていうことを聞きます。で自分のコントロールすることのできることでチームのパフォーマンスが高くなるのであれば、具体的に君は何をしたらパフォーマンスとしてチームが高いところまで到達できるかということについて話を聞きます。
Thank you. I noticed some people nodding their heads when you're talking. Some great things there about specificity and asking the player. Do we have one more? Thank you. One more? Yeah, yeah.
無理して。すみません、子供なんですけど。多分僕の捉え方としては、その人は練習中に問題を起こしているっていうのは、練習のメニューとか練習のやり方に多分沿ってない、ちょっと違うことをしてなんか問題を起こすっていいと思うんですけど、でもその人は練習には来てくれてるから、そのスポーツ自体はやりたいと思ってる。でもそのやり方に何かしらの不満があると僕は、推測思っていて、だからその人に何がやりたいのとか、その人の満足のいくメニュー、何かやり方、そういうものをちょっと示してあげたら、もっと練習が楽しくなって参加してくれるんじゃないかなと僕は思います。すいません、ありがとうございます。
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Brilliant. So, really great answers. I want to talk about a few things here. Positive coaching doesn't mean that you don't give players negative feedback, but you want to deliver it in a gentle way. If you yell at someone for their negative feedback, it causes resistance, at least in the United States. When you yell at a player, the first thing the player starts thinking about is, my coach is being unfair to me. He doesn't think about, how can I get better? And then to do it in a calm, positive way. So you say something like, you stopped running hard in our exercises today. And that's not okay. That's not, remember what culture is? That's not the way, do it with me, it's not the way we do things here on this team. Again, that's not the way we do things here on this team. Now, if you can do that in a calm voice, you're telling him it's not okay. So it's negative feedback, but you do it calmly, he's more likely to focus on that. Again, at least in the United States. And then ask him if he can set a positive goal. So let's say the player is, in fact, I think your example was, the player is frustrated because he's a better player than the other athletes on the team. And so he's saying negative things to the other player. He's draining their emotional tanks. So you might say, you're one of the better players on the team, but you're not a leader of the team. I would like you to become a leader. Leaders make the people around them better. They fill the emotional tanks of their teammates. Do you think you could step up and be a leader and fill the emotional tanks of the players on our team? If he says yes, that's great. Then you set a goal. It's not just vague, it's a goal. Tomorrow at practice, can you fill the tanks, the emotional tanks of 3 of your teammates? Do you think you can do that? Now, a number of different things might happen. The player may say, yeah, I can do that, but then he doesn't. Like he says it, but he doesn't actually follow through. And that's why consequences are important. What's the work for coaches? What's the worst thing you can do to a player? I think it's take them out of the game. It's have somebody else play the game. And if you can do that, so if you have a player who's not cooperating with you, you say, I really want you on this team. Again, you're calm. Maybe inside you're angry, but you're calm and you're positive, and you say, I really want you on this team, but you need to be part of the team. You need to do things the way we do things on this team. And so I'm not going to have you play tomorrow in our game. Now, why do coaches not want to take their best players out of a game? That's pretty easy, isn't it? Because they want to win. But if you do this, that will communicate. And then the conversation is, do you know how you can get back to play on the team again? You can start filling the emotional tanks of your teammates. Are you willing to do that? Okay. Do you think you can do twice tomorrow in practice? And then the last thing is to give receivable criticism. If you criticize somebody, a lot of coaches, and this came up earlier, a lot of coaches feel like, my goal is to make people better, and the way to make them better is to tell them what they're doing wrong. But if the player can't receive the feedback and use it, it doesn't help. So here's some thoughts about how you give criticism so players are more likely to say, I'm not against criticism. Criticism is important. But give it so people can receive it. And the first thing is to avoid non-teachable moments. If a player has just struck out, we lose the game because of a mistake they made, there's so much emotion that that's probably not a teachable moment. That's not the time to give that feedback. So wait until they calm down a little bit. Do it in private. A lot of coaches yell at the players who make a mistake in front of everybody else. We say reward in public, criticize in private. So take the player aside and say, that's not okay. And the other players don't even know what you're talking about. Ask permission. My son, who you saw a picture of when he was 7 years old, he's now 37. That's 30 years ago. He was a stubborn kid. Stubborn, we think of stubborn necessarily as bad, but stubborn is also good. It means he doesn't give up easily. And so what I would say to him is I would say, I was coaching him. And I would say to him, Gabriel, I have an idea. When you're up at the plate batting, I've got an idea that will help you hit better. Are you open to hearing it? Now, about half the time he'd say no. And then I would say, okay, no problem. But when I walked away from him, you know what's going on in his head? He wants to know. He's curious. He thought I was going to tell him anyway, but I didn't. Other times I'd ask him, do you want to hear my suggestion for how you can get better? And he would say yes. Now, he has given me permission to give him the criticism, and it's much more likely to be successful that way. If-then statements. There's research that's been done that said if you give criticism in the form of, if you do this, then this will happen, people can hear it better because you're leaving the control with them. You're not saying, you've got to do this. You're saying, if you do this, then you're going to be more likely. Any play basketball or coach basketball? Not too many? Well, in basketball, there's now the three-point line. A basket's 2 points, but if it's beyond the three-point line, it's 3 points, so it's a big deal. And when younger kids are shooting three-point shots, they crank it like this, and it's terrible form. The way to be able to make a three-point shot is by bending your knees. That's where the power comes from. And so I might say to a player, if you bend your knees more, you're going to get more power and you're going to be a better shot. And they want to be a better shot. So if-then statements are a good way to do it. A criticism sandwich, I have something negative I want to say to the player. If I find something positive to say, I like this about what you did. Actually, let's talk about shooting. I really like the way you followed through on your shot. That's the positive. If you bend your knees, you'll be more accurate. That's the criticism. And then the last one is, I really like the way you kept your eye on the basket until you made the shot. So I'm now given 3 pieces of coaching. 2 things that he's doing well, I want him to keep doing, and then the 1 criticism. And because it's sandwiched, they're more likely to hear it. And then finally, end with a positive. You've just given a player some negative, so find something positive to say. So let me pause here and turn it back over to you, G, and we'll move on to the next part of the program. Thank you.
はい、ジムさんありがとうございました。これからですね、私が、新データとなって、朝原さんにも、出ていただき、3人でですね、簡単な質疑をしております。じゃあ、見てみます。